The coffee maker gurgled in the pre-dawn silence. Kira stood at the counter, her scrubs already on, thumb scrolling through her phone while the machine wheezed its last drops into her to-go cup. Across the kitchen, Denny's appeared, boots already laced, keys jangling in his hand. "Early route today," he said, not a question. "Mum." She didn't look up. The front door clicked shut before her coffee finished brewing. This was marriage at 41. This was what 15 years looked like when you stripped away the pretense, two people operating on separate schedules, communicating in logistics. Bills paid. Check. Groceries done. Check. How are you feeling? What are you thinking? Do you still see me? Those questions had expired years ago. Kira drove to the dental clinic, where she managed the front desk, smiled at patients, answered phones with manufactured warmth. "Good morning, Dr. Patterson's office." The voice that came out wasn't hers, it was the one she'd perfected over 2 decades of customer service. Pleasant. Helpful. Invisible. At lunch, she scrolled through Facebook. A friend request notification appeared. Jake Rosen. High school. Jesus, that was a lifetime ago. His profile picture showed a man who'd aged well, graying at the temples, laugh lines around his eyes. She accepted. The message came an hour later. Kara Morrison. Holy shit, it's been forever. How are you? She stared at the words. When was the last time someone had asked how she was and actually waited for an answer? Whoa, Jake. I'm good. Can't believe it's been. What, 23 years? The conversation flowed easily. Too easily. He remembered things, that she'd wanted to be a nurse before life got complicated, that she'd loved Stephen King novels, that she used to laugh so hard she'd snort. He asked follow-up questions. He listened. Dennis came home at 9 p.m. that night, reeking of diesel and fast food. Long day? Kara asked from the couch. Yeah. He grabbed a beer from the fridge, disappeared into the bedroom. She heard the click on some true crime documentary he'd watch until he passed out. She opened her phone. Still reading King. Jake had written. Not in years. Life got busy. That's a shame. You used to get so into those books. I remember you stayed up all night reading The Stand. Something warm spread through her chest. Someone remembered. Someone cared enough to ask. The messages became daily. Then hourly. Nothing physical, just words. But words built worlds. Jake was going through a divorce, he told her. He understood loneliness. He understood what it felt like to be a ghost in your own home. How are you really? He asked one night. Kara's fingers hovered over the keyboard. The truth sat in her throat like a stone. Honestly, I feel invisible. Like I'm just furniture. You deserve better than that. 3 words. She read them 15 times. She told herself it was harmless. Just conversation. Just someone who saw her as more than a front desk smile or a name on a checking account. She wasn't doing anything wrong. But she knew better. She felt the guilt in how carefully she angled her phone away when Dennis walked by. in how her heart jumped at each notification, in how she started putting on makeup before bed, just in case she wanted to send a photo. Nothing inappropriate, just something that showed she still existed. Dennis noticed the change. Not the phone, not yet. But something had shifted. Kara seemed lighter, more animated. She hummed while making dinner. She asked him about his roots with an enthusiasm that felt performative, like she was checking a box. Engage with husband. He told himself he was imagining things. But male intuition isn't as dull as people think. The discovery came on a Tuesday. His phone had died mid-route, and he'd left his charger at home. Kara was in the shower when he got back. Her phone sat on the kitchen counter, screen glowing with a new message. Can't stop thinking about our conversation. You get me in a way I haven't felt in years. The sender, Jake Rosen. A heart emoji floated next to the name. Dennis's stomach dropped into his boots. He unlocked the phone. She'd never changed the passcode, still used their anniversary, and scrolled up. Weeks of messages. Hundreds. Intimate confessions, flirtations wrapped in nostalgia, emotional intimacy that belonged in a marriage, not a chat thread with some ghost from high school. No nudity. No explicit plans to meet. But somehow, that made it worse. This wasn't just physical need, this was replacement. Someone else was getting the parts of Kara that Dennis had stopped asking for. He put the phone down exactly where he'd found it. The rage came later, after Kara had gone to bed. Not explosive. Dennis wasn't a yeller. But cold, surgical. A voice in his head whispered the question he couldn't shake. So I'm not enough. 15 years. Mortgage payments and oil changes and silent dinners, and this is what he got. Replaced by some asshole with a nice smile and pretty words. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was existential. In American masculinity, there's a script: provide, protect, persevere. Dennis had done all three. And still, he'd failed to keep his wife's attention. He wanted to confront her. Scream. Demand answers. But that would mean admitting how much it hurt. How small he felt. How utterly disposable. So instead, he did something worse. Her name was Lisa. Bartender at the truck stop off I-94, the one Dennis hit twice a week for coffee and breakfast sandwiches. She'd always been friendly, too friendly maybe. Flirty in that way service workers are when they're fishing for tips. Roof day? She asked when Dennis slid onto a stool. Something like that. Wife troubles? Who looked up. Lisa was younger, maybe 35, with bleached hair and tired eyes. She'd probably heard 1,000 sob stories from 1,000 men just like him. How'd you guess him? Wedding ring. Bourbon at tube, Mum. Dead look in your eyes. She smiled, not unkindly. I've seen it before. The conversation stretched longer than it should have. When her shift ended, she suggested they grab a real drink. Dennis knew what he was doing. Knew it was wrong. But the voice in his head wouldn't shut up. If she can do it, I can too. Lisa's apartment was small, cramped, smelling of cigarettes and vanilla candles. They didn't talk much. Afterwards, lying in her bed, Dennis felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just a hollow ache and the weight of what he'd become. "You okay?" Lisa asked, lighting a cigarette. "Yeah," he lied. He left before dawn. Kira noticed the distance first. Dennis had always been quiet, but now he was gone, physically present, but emotionally evacuated. He stopped asking about her day. Stopped touching her shoulder when he passed in the hallway. Started taking extra shifts that didn't exist. She told herself it was stress. Work. The usual grind. But intuition is a hunter, patient and relentless. She started noticing things, receipts from places he didn't usually go. The smell of perfume not hers lingering on his jacket. The way he showered immediately when he got home, scrubbing like he was trying to wash off evidence. The confrontation came on a Saturday. She'd found the motel receipt in his glove compartment while looking for the car insurance paperwork. Room 114. 3 hours. Cash payment. "Who is Shiv?" Dennis stood at the kitchen sink, hands braced against the counter. He didn't turn around. "Does it matter? Are you serious right now? You want to talk about betrayal?" He turned, and his eyes were empty. "How's Jake?" The air left her lungs. "How did you? Your phone? Saw the messages? That's different. We didn't. I never. You never wanted. Fucked him." Dennis's voice was flat, surgical. "No. You just gave him everything else. Every thought. Every feeling. Every piece of yourself you wouldn't give me. Tell me, Kara, what's worse? That I slept with someone, or that you fell in love with someone?" "I didn't." "Bullshit." The silence that followed was louder than the fight. They existed in the same space like hostile nations, each fortified behind their own grievances. Every interaction became a negotiation. Every word, a potential weapon. "You hurt me first," Kara said one night, voice shaking. "No," Dennis replied. "I hurt you second. There's a difference. So this is revenge. Punishment. This is me realizing I was never enough. So why the fuck should I try?" The house became a museum of their failure. Dishes piled in the sink. Whose turn was it anyway? Laundry sorted into his and hers like the division of assets. They spoke in logistics, bills, schedules. Who would take the couch? "I'll stay at Mike's for a while," Dennis said finally. "Give us space." "Space for what?" He didn't answer. The apartment Mike loaned him was a studio above a garage, Spartan, cold, smelling of motor oil. Dennis sat on the edge of the futon, head in his hands, and felt the full weight of what he'd done. The affair hadn't been about Lisa. It had been about proving something, that he still mattered, that he could hurt as deeply as he'd been hurt. But revenge doesn't heal wounds. It just creates new ones. He thought about Kara. About the years they'd spent building a life together, brick by silent brick, until they'd walled themselves into separate prisons. When had they stopped talking? Really talking, the kind of conversations that expose the raw nerve of truth. He couldn't remember. Kira sat in the empty house and felt the echo of her mistake. Jake had been a fantasy, a distraction, a safe rebellion. But she'd used him to fill a void she should have addressed at home. She'd been a coward. Too afraid to tell Dennis she was drowning, too proud to admit she needed him. And now Dennis had done the unthinkable. But could she blame him? She'd opened the door. He'd just walked through it. The question wasn't who hurt whom first. The question was whether either of them cared enough to stop hurting each other. The coffee shop was neutral territory. 3 weeks after Dennis moved out, Kara texted, "We need to talk. Not fight. Talk." He showed up looking haggard, older. They sat across from each other, two strangers learning each other's faces again. "I'm sorry," Kira said. "Me too. No, I mean I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. That I checked out emotionally. That I looked for validation anywhere but here." Dennis exhaled slowly. "I'm sorry I took that pain and weaponized it. That I became someone I don't recognize. Where do we go from here? I don't know." And that was the truth. Not every story ends with reconciliation. Not every marriage survives honesty. But for the first time in years, they were speaking the same language, vulnerability. "Can I ask you something?" Dennis said. "Yeah." "When did we stop being us?" Kira thought about it. Really thought. "I think we stopped asking each other that question." They didn't move back in together that day. Maybe they never would. But they started something harder, talking. 7-minute conversations with a timer, no interruptions, using only "I feel" statements. No accusations. No defensiveness. Just two people trying to be seen. Some nights, it felt impossible. Old resentments bubbled up, sharp and toxic. But other nights, they remembered why they'd chosen each other in the first place. The shared jokes. The comfort of someone who knew your history. The potential of what they could still become. Healing isn't a destination. It's a direction. And maybe, just maybe, they were finally pointed the right way.